I am so excited to have you with us. And my name, if for those who don't know me, is Dr. Alaysia Hackett, and I serve as the senior pastor of the Leviticus Church in Richmond, Virginia. And I will also serve as your host tonight. So whether you are joining us on Facebook, on YouTube, or streaming from our website, leviticusrva.com, thank you so much for joining. All I ask is that you interact with us. Dr. Trimm is such a prolific speaker, so make sure that you're commenting in the chat box, that you're giving some feedback. Take your notes. If you have your book, I suggest you go get your book and prepare to write notes, because there's an importance of a body response. Whenever you have something and you hear revelation, you can commit it to memory if you respond and write. So please, by all means, go get your books. Those of you who are part of our Leviticus family, go get your books or pull them out on, if you have your ebooks, pull them out as well. I'm so delighted to and honored to have and bring to you all, to our Leviticus family, Dr. Cindy Trimm and all of the guests who are with me. She doesn't want me to read her bio, but I suggest that you find it online, because it's always important for us to recognize who we are among and the effectiveness of her imprint that she's leaving in the earth realm. I think it's so important for us to realize who we have with us. And so I'm not going to belabor the time. I want to introduce to everyone someone that I've known for quite some time. I think Sebastian was a baby when we met. And
He
so
was a little boy.
so it's been about almost 15 years. And I have been blessed by her. And what I will say is she is one of the most authentic people that I know. What you see today and what you see on camera is who she is when she's outside of the crowds. And I've been so blessed to be doing life with her. I thank you for, being there for my family through some of the hardest times of our life. Sometimes people turn their backs on you, and she didn't do that. And I'm so grateful to be her spiritual daughter. And so I want to introduce to you, Leviticus Church, and to the rest of the world, Dr. Cindy Trimm-Tomlinson. Dr. Trimm, God bless you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lacey. There's a lot of accolades that I can lavish on you today. I find you to be a leader of leaders. I think one of the most important characteristics that you carry is that you are a thought leader. You're a thinker, you're a critical thinker, you walk with critical consciousness. And I think that is your superpower. The fact that you do think. So many people are dragged around by other people's opinions, afraid of giving their own, and they become an echo of another person's opinion. But you refuse to be an echo, you refuse to live as a poor copy of someone else. And it's your authenticity and your integrity, amongst those things that I just mentioned, that really has endeared you to my heart and caused me to really honor who you are as an individual and as a leader in this generation. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to be with you and this family.
Yes, thank you so much, so much. So we're going to jump right in. So Dr. Trimm has written so many books, and I really can say that I believe I have every one of your books. However,
Woohoo!
I lose them. I don't lose them, but I give them away to people, because what happens is during the times where people are reading them, or they'll say, well, oh, wow, what is this about? I'll just seed it to them, knowing that I can see you again, or I have you, or I can get another book. So I've had all of your books. I think Leviticus has done a couple of your books as study guides. The first one
Mm,
was 40 Day Soul Fast. We did that back
yes.
in 2009, and we had so many wonderful reflections of that, life-changing reflections. Last year we did Hello Tomorrow, and
Ooh,
spent a significant amount of time just on the vision, the chapter with
yes.
vision, really pushing people. I often tell the members of Leviticus, there's nothing wrong. This is no shade, but folks are saying 2020 vision today. We were doing our vision through that book last year. And so I appreciate just you and I remember the first time you told me to do that vision, and go down the list of 13 places to do your vision. So we were able to do that book last year. And so this year you just released Goodbye Yesterday. And so, yay, yay. I have mine on ebook and I left the iPad. I
Yeah.
brought.
And I tell people I write in mine as well. Even though I wrote the book,
Yes,
I take notes because a book flows through you, and you spend months with the concept that you're trying to develop, and then even more months in editing it. And chapter one might end up as chapter four, and the book is rearranged.
right.
So after you publish a book, it's important to go back and read the book. And I'm just grateful to have written it as a part of the trilogy. And we're going to share how this particular book amongst the trilogy is so important for any individual,
Yeah.
specifically believers, if they're going to, not only walk out their purpose, but
Mhm.
also prosper
Yeah.
in the process that they're in called life.
Yes, yes. So talk to me. You talked about your trilogy, and like I said, I have all of them, and I've read all of them. I think one of my favorite books in the world is Command Your Morning. That is the book I have paid more copies for, because I know my sister was in the car with me once, and I said, "Well, just have it." And then my best friend, I was like, "Well, just have it." And somebody else, I'm like, "Just have it." So can you talk to us a little bit about your trilogy, your three books?
Yeah, the 3 books. I have the pleasure of having, an audience that I speak to, and it could be on a number of different platforms. Usually, I'm given about an hour, and, an hour was never enough to complete a concept, to really to do any particular topic or concept justice. And people kept asking questions, and just out of a need, out of solving a major problem, and that was a problem of time and being able to continue on developing and introducing and giving an understanding as well as interpretation and application of a particular concept. That was a huge problem. I decided, well, why don't I write? I wasn't an author at that particular time, and I still think that I'm sometimes a neophyte author,
Yeah.
and maybe I'm a sophomore by now, but I'm still learning the art of writing and communication.
Mhm.
Um, I decided to teach people to pray. And then after prayer, I had so many questions. The Rules of Engagement book. There were so many questions. I decided, let me write a second book on the power of words. That life is happening to you, but you don't have to be a victim, and you can download success into your day the night before.
Mhm.
Hence, commending your morning. And there, spent the entire book just giving a treatment to the power of the spoken word. And I'm still fascinated by how words actually change our destiny, change our lives. Everything rises and falls on a word, and it's not just the placement of the word; it's the intention behind the words. And we understand that the whole earth, the whole universe, was created by words.
Mhm.
And so, if God could create His world with words, then we can create a smaller microcosm in our world or in the universe called me and everyone else that I influence. I can really begin to use words to change the trajectory of my life, my relationships, my finances. And so that was commending your morning, just taking from out of Job, where God is having a conversation with Job. Have you commended your morning since the beginning of your days? And I extrapolated the title from that. My publishers wanted me to write another book, and I sat on it for about a good 10 years trying to figure out what do we do? Do I say commending your day? And then, because I did commending your morning, I decree and I declare in the book, it became just the thing to say when you pray. And it started from this revelation that God gave me. So people started writing books, commending your life, commending this and that and the other. So I didn't want to get caught up in the clutter of the common. And I just sat on it for about 10 years. And one day I was flying and God gave me the revelation of the second book, which was Hello Tomorrow. And then the third book, which is the book that we're going to be focusing on, Goodbye Yesterday. And so you can say hello tomorrow without saying goodbye yesterday. So it just made sense, and that's the trilogy. And I'll tell you why the trilogy is important. And using your own life as a laboratory, just experiment with these books. And if I can just put a tool in a person's hand, not only tell them the benefit of using it, but show them how to use it, then we can duplicate success and triplicate until we hit the quantum area, or exponential growth and quantum leaping the entire universe. So my intention was not only to describe the tool, but to teach a person how to use the tool. And it
Right.
all starts with our mouth.
Yes, that's excellent. I mean, just for me, as I was reading Goodbye Yesterday, it came full circle. Just having read all the other two books, I was like, wow. She just kind of reviewed so literally, for those who don't have the other two books, she really does a good job. Really molding all three books together. And I want to say this because you teach this and you push this, that the best thing that one person can do for themselves is to invest in information. And so it's always important that when someone provides tools like Dr. Trimm has provided, with all of the books that she's written, she's leaving parts of herself in the earth realm. It's important to invest in that and really take that information and that knowledge, because no one can take it from you. So anyway, let's dive in a little bit, and we don't want to give everything because we want people to read the book, and we want Leviticus to make sure that they're present during our book club so that we can have these discussions and kind of push from it. But let's talk about saying goodbye to anything, just saying goodbye, because for me, I want to say it has been hard through life to really recognize when a season is up, or if a season is up, or just be okay with, the forgiveness and saying goodbye to that. So one of the questions that came in, Dr. Trimm, so in chapter 2, you spend a significant amount of time discussing the importance of embracing endings as part of the law of transition in relationships, whether it's family dynamics, careers, seasons of life. So can you talk to us a little bit about some of the things that you highlight in this book that can help folks navigate through seasons of transition in a healthy manner, in a
Yeah.
productive
Yeah.
manner?
Yeah, I really love this book. Read it, reread it. You're having your book club, and I was thinking about this yesterday, Saturday and yesterday, and came up with a way that we can actually break unwanted cycles. So we live in the present, we call it now.
Mhm,
And when you think about resources that are made available, there's only three dimensions that you can garner resources from.
mhm,
It's your past, it's your present, and your future. Those are the only three dimensions that you can get resources from. So you live in now, but you can also live in yesterday, and you can live in tomorrow. Hence the three book: present, commanding your morning; past, goodbye yesterday; future, hello tomorrow. So I want to park the past to the side for a moment as we just look at goodbye yesterday and the transitions that are involved. If you are living right now and in this present moment, and you're commanding your morning, the question is, why does things still happen? Why are we still living in this cycle? You have to ask yourself the question: am I pulling on resources from yesterday, or resources from tomorrow? Am I looking ahead and leaning into my future, or am I looking behind? And if you're looking behind, you're going to create a cycle today that has the potential to be repeated tomorrow. And so saying goodbye simply means that this is the gift that you give yourself. It's the final act. So a goodbye is the ending of something. And goodbye, again, is your final act. It's honoring, being able to honor what you had,
Mm.
but invite what is yet to come. And as long as you hang on to yesterday, what's going to happen basically is that you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer from what I call possibility blindness, because you continuously are looking back. You're looking back rather than looking ahead. And so yesterday has nothing new to say to you.
Wow.
You're just going to repeat it over and over and over and over.
Wow.
And if you want to break a cycle, you break the cycle by leaning into tomorrow. But when you walk away from anything, you have that in between season where you're neither here nor there. But when you walk away from something, whether it's a difficult situation, a painful situation, you got that transition right in the middle. And it's that in that transition that you live every single day. And if you want to break into the next, you have to break out into the old. And when we talk about chapter 2 and talk about transition without giving everything away, because this book is worth reading,
Yes.
you have to look at nature. Nature changes every season. And every 3 months, we got to say goodbye. It's about closure. Closure means finality. It means letting go. And I tell you, it's not always easy, because if you're saying goodbye, if you're letting go, during that transitional period, you're going to have a sense of mourning, that dark time, that painful time, the time where your emotional energies are really redirected to healing your own soul. And sometimes when you let go, there's a hole in your soul. And you can either plug that hole in your soul with memories of yesterday, which will turn into cycles of regret,
Mm.
then cycles of sadness, then cycles of depression. Or you could fill that hole in your soul with vision. At any given moment, you cannot pull from both simultaneously.
Wow.
It's either one or the other. So either your past is going to pull you back, or your future is going to pull you ahead. And closure is about letting go, because you cannot embrace the new at the same time as embracing the old. So you have to ask yourself the question, how can I let go so that I can begin again? So it's about trusting yourselves to move forward. It's about the power of now, what you do with your now. It's about dealing with grief, and it could be the loss of a child, a relationship, a job, an opportunity. And what I tell people is, you've got to take the time to celebrate
Mhm.
what you had. And it's the, I think, failure to to operate from the realm of gratitude that causes people to be stuck. And so you end up in this energy depletion, which is a negative, putting your emotions, your mental energy in overdraft. So you have a negative deposit rather than a positive. And then that leads to fear, and fear to the zero sum mentality, which I talk about in the book, to envy, to shame and justification. So either you're ashamed about it or you justify it, to resentment, and that cycle keeps going until you end up in like a desert state, a cycle of scarcity and lack. And that's where a lot of people are. They're in this cycle of scarcity and lack.
Wow.
They don't have enough time. They don't have enough friends. They don't have enough money. There's never enough. And if you want to break that, you got to understand that this is going to, if you're in that cycle, it's going to cause a distortion of perspective. So chapter 2 is about using that in between time to restore your energy back to a positive state, and to sit long enough with your pain. And while you're sitting there, to acquire the attitude of gratitude. It's all in the book.
Yes.
Once you have the attitude of gratitude, it removes possibility blindness, it restores the proper perspective, and then you're able to give yourself the opportunity to say goodbye. This season of my life is over. This time in my life is over. This relationship is over. And even if your boss fires you, and for that moment you're depressed and you feel sad, it's okay if you say that life sucks. But one day you have to wake up and you have to determine, okay, am I going to stay here? Who's responsible for me going to the next level? And so during that period of transition is that period where you're going to change the narrative.
Yes.
You're going to go from resentment to celebration. Even if someone hired you, promised to keep you, but they end up firing you, you mourn, yes, you mourn and you grieve. Blessed are they that grieve or mourn, for they shall be comforted. And I remember coming out of 2019 and in my spirit saying, there's some changes that I got to make. And beginning January, I usually begin very, very high. And this was the first January that it was dark, it was painful, emotionally painful. And for the first couple of days, knowing that I had to say goodbye to an old season, an old way of doing things. And in this book, I talk about losing my laptop. You know, my laptop, it had all my intellectual property, all of it. We didn't have the cloud back then.
Yes.
And, people consoled me, but the consolation didn't help. I was able to buy another laptop. The laptop didn't help. Why? Because I was going through that transition. I was going through the grieving process. And the new laptop came, even though I went through the grieving process, that sinking in your stomach that comes when you have loss, and the darkness in your soul when you suffer loss. I had that. And although it didn't turn into chronic depression, I honored the loss by saying goodbye and actually giving it a burial, because you can have a burial without a funeral. And this is why understanding why funerals, because this is the last time that we could celebrate something that was, whether it was a relationship, a child, a job. You celebrate what you have. You add a layer of gratitude. You see, in funerals, they usually give an opportunity for people to speak and talk about the life, and we have a celebration of life. And this is what you need to do with everything. This season is over. Thank you that I've learned a lesson. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. But in this between time, I have to go through the grieving process and then embrace the new. So
Right.
transition is, you're not in your past, you're not in your future, you're here right now. What do I do with the emotions now, with my mind now, with the opportunities now? And again, when it comes to resolving the whole idea of proper perspective, you resolve that by honoring the moment that you're in.
That's good. You said so much, and I told everybody to have a pen, Dr. Trimm, but I'm sitting right here at this desk without a pen myself, and I feel so bad. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. So I'll just have to go back and look at it. I
Yeah.
think it's interesting, and to look at goodbye as a celebration. I
Mhm.
hadn't heard that before, and
Yeah.
I think culturally speaking, we've seen goodbyes, all of it is doom and gloom, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But it can be a celebration, and I think one of the life changing quotes you gave me once. Well, you gave it to me a lot, like get over it. but I mean, otherwise, it's rejection is a divine assign. What is it? How is your quote? Rejection is a sign that.
Rejection, I think, is a gift that
Yeah,
is given to you, that you have outgrown a realm, a relationship, a
absolutely.
season, and rejection is redirection.
Redirect.
And if you leave it there, it sounds really good, but it's a redirection of what? It's a redirection of your energy.
Mm-hmm.
Is where you put your energy.
Yes.
So we lose a lot of great opportunities because we don't understand how valuable our energies are. And I sat down, I did this entire equation. It's a fantastic equation because God is one. And if you look at where we are now, everything's driven by algorithms. Algorithms are ones and zeros, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if God is one, that makes me zero. So if I put my nothing with his one, it brings me into the realm of exponential.
Mm-hmm.
And Daniel stood alone, but it was him and God, right? David, it was him and God. And in the eyes of his family and community, he was a nobody. That was cool. But him, zero plus God, one. When you put that together, it becomes powerful. You
Yeah.
move into the exponential realm. And so God made Daniel 10 times smarter than what he was. So that's 10 to the power of 10, which is 10 trillion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everyone, you're already a trillionaire. You got 32 trillion cells, 100 billion cells. God said, I'll multiply you 1,000 times more than you are. And so not what you have, but you are. And what you are is just pure energies, because that's what cells are. So you have atoms, which is pure energy made that creates molecules, that creates your organs, that
Mm-hmm.
creates the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
So every time you walk, you're pure energy. And a lot of times we're suffering from a depletion of energy. If you just hear me out, that is because we're looking and we're drawing resources from something that needs to be buried. It's only going to create negative energy and negative depletion. Every time you take the energy of thought, every time you look back, the energy that you could be directing to tomorrow and creating the life that you want is already depleted. So
Right.
you end up in this cycle. So you got to say goodbye. And everybody has to read the introduction. You got to start with the introduction. The introduction is incredible.
Yes.
And if you miss the introduction, you miss everything. Because I tell the story of my mentor and my uh, colleague, Les Brown,
Mm-hmm.
and I tell his story. And he went through the energy depleting cycle of looking back and rehearsing over and over that his mother gave him up for adoption, and he kept reaching back, and as long as he had negative energy flowing through his body, he would have opportunities, and then the opportunities would be lost.
Right.
Then when he took the time to change the narrative, this is what Goodbye Yesterday is all about. How do you change the narrative of your life? And we talk about the 12 boundary defying principles of law
Yes.
and how to activate those principles. And excuse me, the activating the 12 laws of boundary defying faith.
Faith.
And how do you activate those laws? You know, when we talk about faith, faith is one of those big concepts we throw out, but we break it down and we use Genesis chapter 1, where the earth was just a soupy nothingness.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a colossal catastrophe and the earth was totally destroyed. So where did God begin? He began with what he had and where he was. You cannot start where you're not. You
That's
can only start where you are, and where you are is enough to get started. But the thing about it is, life is happening to you one day at a time. And the chief beauty about time is that you cannot waste it in advance.
wow.
So, what you do with your now is important. Now, faith is a substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
three realms of resources: yesterday, now, which is the present, and the future. So you're wasting your resources, your greatest resources, is the energy that comes from thought. Greatest resource. If you could think, you could think your way out of anything and into anything.
Mhm.
And this book starts with a goodbye, because you cannot embrace tomorrow if you are hanging on to your past today. So today, this just going, and I love how this book is written, because it's just 4 to 6 pages. So a person could read 4 to 6 pages today and put it down.
Mhm.
And then they read 4 to 6 pages tomorrow and put it down.
Yeah.
And in about 5 weeks, you're finished the book.
Yeah, it's definitely a easy read, and it flows very well, especially if you've read Command Your Morning and Hello Tomorrow. It's a good flow into to understanding
Yeah.
concepts. So Dr. Trimm, and talking about goodbye, to our yesterday, we're dealing with a unprecedented crisis right now with COVID-19 and how life has changed for us. There is no definition of normal anymore. Um, as we believers and entrepreneurs and business owners, or whoever we are, teachers, government officials, whatever capacity we're working in, how do you take, I mean, of course, if you read the book, you can pull some of the knowledge out of that, but how do we face our tomorrow, but be okay
Yeah.
with saying bye to, or saying goodbye to how life was prior to March of 2020? Like, it's a big jump. It's not even, I can't even say that we're sliding into this thing. Like, it was literally a hard turn, and life as we know it no longer exists. And so I believe that some people that's out there, um, as you were talking about celebrating our good, our yesterdays, how do they navigate through this emotional place that we are in, just saying goodbye to what was?
Embracing change. Like I said, life changes every 3 months. Whether we get so accustomed to seasons that we ignore something that is built into the DNA of life.
Right.
And there's the one continuous factor that is built into life, period, all of our lives, and that's change. And nature teaches us. So I think three of the greatest things a person can do for themselves, and I'll make this really easy. Number one, embrace change, because it happens every 3 months. So embrace change. Make sure that within your life strategy, within your growth strategy, within your professional development strategy, you build change in there.
Mhm.
Whether change is thrusted upon you or you become an agent of change, either way, make sure that within your life equation that you have change. Change demands a particular skill, and that skill is called it's change called change management. So you have this particular skill, a change management skill, that you got to get used to. So the greatest skill that a person can acquire is change management. And this is where a lot of people fall, because they become stressed, they become upset, perturbed, disturbed, filled with fear, because things are changing around them. You cannot control everything in this world except yourself.
Mhm.
So the third thing is, if everything is changing, that means that every season I should be giving myself a going away party to be
Wow.
able to celebrate, and then to embrace the need to upgrade my skills. So whenever the universe changes because of some inflection that is caused, and that's what's happening. When we talk about inflections, we're talking about geopolitical. In this instance, it's an issue of health and the
Mhm.
healthcare industry being impacted, and in industries, period, being impacted. Jobs are being impacted. When we go back to running the world in a particular way, in an efficient way, when we go back to whatever the new normal is, There are going to be joblessness. But just because there's joblessness, it doesn't mean that there is not employment opportunity. And the reason why I say this, because right now your greatest skill that you can acquire is employability skills.
Mm-hmm.
So for every one job, and we're looking at AI, and I just look at AI. Right now, we're moving towards 25 million people unemployed, and um, so many people that have applied for unemployment. And that's a lot of people. But the issue is not whether you're going to have a job. There are going to be jobs, because for every one job that is eliminated, 2.5 new jobs are going to be created. The issue is, are you going to be prepared, employable for these new jobs? That's the big question. We
That's right.
need to go from joblessness to employability. And that means that with the changes that are going on, which is downloaded into the DNA of nature, um, are you prepared to upgrade? Are you prepared to learn new skills? And you can rebuke seasonal change all you want on the 21st of whenever spring is. What is that, March?
March.
You're going to have spring, the 21st of June. You're going to have summer, the 21st of October. You're going to have winter. It's going to happen just like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have the winter, spring, summer, fall, and you're going to have your 4 seasons. And you can rebuke it, you could decree it, you could declare it, you can prophesy to it, you can say, I had a dream that the seasons weren't going to come, the seasons are going to come.
Yeah.
So likewise with change, a lot of us don't have change management because we don't have that as a part of our life skill, our toolbox
Mm-hmm.
that we carry around called life skills. But we need to download it into our toolbox called life and embrace it. I'm excited about it. I'm making necessary changes. I'm
Yeah.
not waiting until the resources start draining and look back and say, I wish that yesterday would come back. It's never going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
But I can lean into tomorrow.
Right.
And that's what I'm encouraging people to do. And you cannot lean into tomorrow by leaning backwards. You learn backwards, you lean forward.
Yes.
So, and there are things from your past that should stay in your past. And the only thing that you need to bring into your present are the lessons.
Yes.
And that's it.
Yes.
And then the rest of the resources are going to come from your tomorrow. And again, a lot of people cannot embrace the possibilities of tomorrow because they're still embracing yesterday. You got to be able to say goodbye yesterday. And this is what this book is all about. Tell your time where to go. I mean, I love it how it's written. It's just bite size, and it's written in 3 or 4 different sections. Section 1 is reframe, and I talk a lot about how you talk about your life.
Right.
And number 2 is recharge. Number 3 is reclaim, and number 4 is restore. And I tell you, Pastor Lacey, and I'm going to build a case for something. I think every season you need to have a mentor or a coach that's with you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have it.
That's
You have to have it. You've got to get some skin in the game. And I think about where I could have been at 18. You know, filled. I remember being 8 years old and filled with all these ideas and energies and dreams, literal dreams and daydreams, dreams about my future,
Mm-hmm.
and being filled with possibility and vision and leaning into my future and um, having this discipline about myself that a lot of my contemporaries didn't have. And I think it was God given. To whom much is given, much is required.
Yes.
And leaning into it, and how different my life would have been if I had a mentor or coach that I was sincerely submitted to,
Mm-hmm.
who can articulate for me like I'm able to articulate for people. And I'm able to bring factors and equations and say, okay, this is what you're going through. This is what life looks like. And to offer that as a possible perspective. And I'm happy to have the opportunity given to me by God as well as a duty to create those kinds of equations
Mm-hmm.
and to put myself forward to be able to say, hey, look, I know the way and I can prove it. Here's the fruit. I know how to navigate a professional terrain. Here's the proof. I
Right.
know how to turn ideas into wealth, and here's the proof.
Yes.
And I know what I'm talking about when I write these books,
Yes.
because my life is a laboratory, and
Yes.
I put this together and that together, and I've had many things in my life to blow up. In fact, 80% of what I do doesn't work. And the 20% that does work has given me this amazing life that I'm able to live and to do life with people. And so a lot of people may not be able to, or at this present, may not have the disposable income to hire me or hire a coach. But this book is only $15 or whatever they charge. That's all this book is.
Right.
And anybody could find $15, I'm telling you.
You put money into
Uh,
you want. Most people spend
yeah,
on.
they could find it. They could
Yeah.
find it. I had one woman came to me crying. She had to pay a bill, a credit card, and it was, and I say only because, I mean, a few zeros is still zero. You add zero, it's
Right.
zero.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. I wouldn't cry over $3. I wouldn't cry over $30 if I owed that. If I owed $30,000, I wouldn't cry. If I owed $3 million, I wouldn't cry. I might cry if I owed 3 billion.
Right.
But 3 million, it's just a few zeros behind three. So I know I could pay a bill of three. So it's nothing for me to pay a bill of 30 or 30,000 or 300,000.
Mhm.
It's nothing.
Right.
Zero is nothing.
Yeah.
And so if you approach your life like that, and if you are able to lean into your future, learn from your past, and that's all you want to take from your past. You don't want to take the resentment, what your mother didn't do, what your father didn't do. And if that's still haunting you, reframe it. And
Reframe.
then in the back of the book, I have declarations, and it's 30 declarations. No, it's more than 30. I got my books mixed up. I was reading Prevail. Prevail has 30.
Okay. Yeah.
But this is really, really fantastic. I mean, the declarations in the back of this book is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's about choosing. It's about loving yourself. I mean, it's broken down. I love this book. I love how it's broken down. And I want to challenge everyone. If they would just go to the back of the book just for 30 days,
Yes.
read out loud these declarations just for 30 days. Use your life as a laboratory and focus on garnering resources from your future. What? I could tell you at the end of 30 days what's about to happen.
Right.
I could tell
Dr.
you. I could
Trim,
tell you. I'm excited.
yes, Dr. Trimm, I know our time is coming up, but I want to make sure that people really understand the value of investing in yourself, meaning the information. Like Dr. Trimm said, there's nothing about getting a book and taking in the knowledge, and don't just read it once, read it a couple of times and really let it marinate in your life. And then one of the things I encourage, especially at Leviticus, is don't just read it for information's sake, apply it. And I think that's one of the things that we miss in society is we take information, but we're not applying it to our lives. And to know that if we're going to come into this place of saying goodbye to our yesterday, it's not going to happen overnight. Like I can't just say, well, goodbye yesterday. I go to sleep and I wake up and I'm a new person. No, I'm going to still be affected by whatever yesterday had, but I've got to train my mindset and build a new habit and build a new a new way of life. And so I just want to say, purchase the book. Matter of fact, purchase the whole trilogy. And that's not just, she didn't ask me to put a plug in. She didn't ask me to do any of this, but I know the value of the information that I have gleaned from this woman of God for so many years, not just as a woman of God. I tell people all the time, first of all, and my husband can say this, I'm a better person because Dr. Trimm is in my life. And I tell Leviticus all the time, I'm a better pastor because of the influence that she has on my life, because it helped me evaluate who I am, and not just the time spent, but I also took opportunities to take the information that she has given. She is a mentor. And so there are so many opportunities that, I say this, she's leaving parts of herself. We're supposed to go out and multiply ourselves.
Yes.
So you've got to take these opportunities to invest and learn, read the book, apply it. And then look, there's not necessarily a money back guarantee, but I can guarantee you, if you put these principles into place, your life will be changed. Your thought process, it starts with the thought. One of the quotes she says all the time, and the first time she said, I was like, is this a trick question? She'll say, could things be the way they are because you're the way you are? You are one decision away from changing the trajectory of your life. And that's true. Like, it's really that simple, Dr. Trimm. Like, and I know that because that's her belief. And that's what I believe is really, I am literally one decision away from changing my life. And that's what you have to do. But you have to decide to command your morning, say hello to tomorrow, and say goodbye to yesterday. That really is, for me, Dr. Trimm, the foundation of how you can move forward is to be able to do all of these things. So real quick, if anybody has any questions, we're going to throw them in right now. But if not, y'all have to type quick because, time is of essence. Dr. Trimm, talk to us a little bit about, I know, and I want to highlight, I think, the Kingdom School of Ministry.
Yeah.
And this is the last year, the Lord willing,
The last live.
that there will be a live class, and it's 7 days of intensive training. I'm telling you, it was the most enjoyable time of my life, and I go back every year because now I have different things that I do as far as to assist with it. But every year, like how you said, Dr. Period, that I go back, I take my books because it's a different revelation. Every class pulls out a different type of revelation. And so Kingdom School of Ministry happens in July in Atlanta. Is 8 classes. You do invest in it, you pay for it. You can't go to Harvard and not pay for classes. So if that offends you, then God bless you. I love you anyway, but Leviticus knows how we do it. But you pay for those classes, and it's such, for me, it was kind of like a exclamation mark on things that we were feeling. Like, we know it's there. We had concepts of it, but it just really brought it together. And I'm telling you, y'all, you've never been, and I have multiple degrees. You know what I'm saying? I'm an educated woman. And I was sitting there and she'll say, I'm going to teach to your spirit. So don't let your head bob. Put your head down, close your eyes. And she literally would press in, and it was almost like taking as much as she could and just pushing it in us until we were so full. And going 2 or 3 o'clock, everybody else, they get out at 1. Y'all don't have nothing on my class. We were there for 3 o'clock in the morning, and you still got to be there by 9 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, I would like for you to talk a little bit about the Kingdom School of Ministry, as this is the last time that you will be doing it live, and then it's moving to online. And I will also put this in because I have the privilege of serving in this capacity for the Trimm Institute for Global Leadership. Please be on the lookout for that. We're going to be able to do online classes and even some live classes. So I'm talking about an empire. Dr. Trimm is an empire on her own. So talk to us a little bit about your KSM.
Yeah, and thank you so much for bringing that up. Going back to myself, and I could look at you because I see you, myself in you, in a lot of sense of the word, because you're a nonconformist. And being a nonconformist really is another word for a trailblazer. So you're trailblazing, it's built into your DNA, it's your purpose. That's who you are. And there's a lot of women that are trailblazers. And we often talk about the male role in a woman's life. And I listen, and it's still, I mean, it's a compliment that you want to do all these things, but I still feel as if it's still coming from that patriarchal, traditional mindset. Um, when you recognize that you have individuals like you and I, we're born leaders.
Mhm.
Nobody makes us a leader. We're born as a leader, and we're not asking permission, and we're not dumbing down, but we're going to do it because we're all women.
Yeah.
So we do it in high heels and makeup and jewelry and long nails because we're not trying to be a man. We're just women who are born like a Deborah.
Mhm.
And there are so many women like us that are out there that has uh, potential on the inside, that are born leaders, that are dumbing down to fit into a culture that has been constructed to support the advancement of the male sapien, and at the expense of the female sapien. And it is what it is. It ain't what it ain't. And it's been here historically,
Mhm.
with the exception, of course, the Hebrews. They were the exception because they were more kingdom. So we end up with these thoughts and ideas on the insides that we can't articulate. And Kingdom School of Ministry, when you come, you begin to say, I'm not crazy after all. So I take very complex concepts and I just break them down. And I break them down based on context, because if your context is wrong, your conclusion is wrong.
Mhm.
And so many people understand life from the wrong context and they have the wrong perspective.
Mhm.
So we take the old glasses off, which is culturally marred.
Mhm.
And we know that the world is suffering from cultural atrophy anyway. So why live in an old world when there's a new world that you can live in? And that's what the kingdom is all about. You're able to live in the best of two worlds. And what I do is to take 8 courses. I'm embarrassed about telling people how much the courses are. They're so inexpensive.
They are.
They're only $169 a course to include the books.
Mhm. Especially for,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's so inexpensive, and this is going to be the last live for me to teach live, and then we're going to go online, and the price is just going to go up like that. It's going to be massive. So by the time we build it out, it's going to be vastly different from what it is. And so this is, like I said, I'm embarrassed for the price because it's so cheap. It's so inexpensive
Mhm.
that I'm embarrassed to say it. You and I both, we've studied at different universities, and to get a PhD, you know how much it costs for one
Yes.
course.
Yes.
So the price of three is less. Well, it's equal to one course that you would take in a university.
Yeah.
It's so 169 times 8, and you could do the math. And
Mhm.
so it's so inexpensive.
I
Plus,
think
you get me.
I think it's
And
$7.
I want everybody to come because nobody gives trade secrets.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. I do give a lot of trade secrets and take helps in hospitality. People think that helps in hospitality is for like, I don't know, ushers and deacons and those that are in the dance ministry. But once they find out how monopolies have been built off of one principle that we're going to teach in helps in hospitality, but we got a whole course. And so if you understand helps in hospitality industry is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. United States of America is a 22 trillion dollar economy, right? And helps in hospitality is a $13 trillion economy.
Mhm.
That's a lot. That's a lot of money.
Yes.
And so if the church understands how helps in hospitality, how can I serve? is attached to a multi-trillion-dollar economy. And that's just helps in hospitality and understanding the kingdom, the purpose of the church. In understanding the kingdom, we talk about Nebuchadnezzar's dream. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so amazing. And then when you look at the Bible and you look at Paul's writing, say to the Philippians church, for instance, I could download that into history. I could tell you how it became Philippi. When you've heard of Alexander the Great,
Mm-hmm.
and he conquered. So this is like uh, 320 BC or some way back time there. And his father, Alexander the Great's father, was named Philip, out of which you get the Philippi, hence the Philippian church.
Mm-hmm.
And so, right there in the Philippian church, Alexander the Great snatched the world power, the world superpower, from the hands of Persia
Mm.
to and put it in the hands of the Greeks and put it in the hands of the Romans. If you understand that, and one man by the name of Nebuchadnezzar had a dream about it,
Yeah.
didn't see the individual, but said there are going to be epochs in time
Yeah.
where the superpower nation is going to shift. And if you look from Babylonia, from Egypt to Babylon, to Medo-Persia, to Greece, to Rome when Jesus was born. And then Paul is writing to the Philippians church,
Yes.
and then to Great Britain and United States of America. And one man dreamt about it.
Yes.
God can give you a dream. And all of this is just what we're going to talk about. And that's just understanding the kingdom.
That's just
You're going to know what the kingdom is, citizenship. I'm all excited. And then the relevance of today. When we talk about living in the era that we live in, where we have a great increase in technology, and we're in this exponential season, and technology is driving everything, and AI is driving everything. Jesus said that, and in the days of Noah, so shall it be the coming of the Lord. So, what was Noah doing in Noah's days?
It was
He was moving technology.
yes.
It was a huge technological burst on the earth realm, and he was at the helm. He was the trailblazer. And so, if we can give you an understanding just in 5 days, just imagine what your life is going to be like 5 years from now.
Yes.
Imagine the possibility. So
Imagine.
anyway, that's it.
I am so listen, when I have the greatest pleasure of spending time with Dr. Trimm, I literally sit like this, like I'm sitting now, because I feel like it's an honor just to be in her presence and to learn from such a plethora of knowledge that's within you. But I definitely want to be and honor your time. Thank you so much for just going through a little bit of what Goodbye Yesterday is about. And this is her newest book. For those of you who have recently joined, I implore you to please go and order it. I know you're physically distanced, but y'all know y'all going out. So go ahead to the bookstore, grab the book, or you can get it.
Download it.
You can download.
Put it on your Kindle.
Yes, put it on your Kindle. You can get it emailed to you, everything. Don't let that be an excuse. What better time than to read right now? So get the book. And she has so many other books. I just suggest, if you don't like her reading, I think you will. Find somebody that you can get knowledge from and apply it to your life. I think she's a wonderful source, a resource, because every source out there is not it's not a primary source. I learned that in law school. So it's not a primary source. Dr. Cindy Trimm is a primary source. She's good. She's relevant, and she has the fruit. One of the things she did talk about is when you have these mentors, you want to find people. Don't connect with people who don't have any fruit. Like what their fruit looking like?
Find the fruit. Growing up, and you're talking about that, growing up, books were my life.
Yeah.
I definitely can say, beside God, it was the books that pulled me out of poverty. It is just books.
Yes.
And I began to experience the world through books, through authors. And to tell you the truth, it was authors and dead people that became my mentor. Yeah. These old writers, Shakespeare, he had died and gone on, and Mother Teresa, and people that left their thoughts in a book. So there you go.
Yeah, thank
And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I'm excited. You can see I'm way off on a tangent. I've been
No, it's
studying all
okay. It's
weekend,
okay.
and I'm dumping on you,
No, I,
dumping these
you know,
amazing thoughts.
Empress ran down and brought me one of my journals. So I was like, yes, thank you so much. But I, and you know this, I sit and I'm just muted the whole time you're talking because I want to grow and you know, the opportunity to learn is so valuable. And so I can sit and just, we just talk all night. But
You're like me. Just give it to me. Talk
just
to
give
me.
it to me. If I don't
I
get
don't
it
need to hoop and
now,
holler. Just talk to me.
yeah, there was times where you and Apostle would be talking, and I'm like, I don't understand nothing they say because they so smart, right? But I'm in the room. I'm in the room, so somehow
Just get in the room.
it's gonna
Just
be in
get.
my
And
spirit.
a conversation is based on past experience, isn't it?
Yeah,
So I think initially when you're introduced to certain concepts, what your teacher has on you is the experience, the past experience that they've had with a subject. So they're talking based on context. And what the School of Ministry does and what these books do is give you context.
yes. If your
Yeah. So
context
that
is wrong,
no word that is thrown together
yeah,
is going to evade you because you have context.
yes, yes. And you can quote this: if your context is wrong, your conclusion will be wrong. You have to
Come
have
on.
context. That is
Come
one
on.
of the quotes I learned from Dr. Trimm, and I say it all the time. Listen, if you don't have the right context, you'll be going down the wrong road, thinking you're right. But
And
anyway,
no matter how much information you get,
no much because your
it's
context.
like law, isn't it? It's
Yes,
like law.
yes, it's
A
just
word don't mean nothing
not a thing
unless it's in context.
unless it's in
You
context.
could give all the facts,
Yes, yes.
but if you don't download it into a law and into the rule of law,
Mm-hmm. It's just circumstantial.
that's just circumstance, someone's opinion.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
all it is.
We have people in the room saying that their copy came today from Amazon. It's not
Woohoo!
going to take long. Other folks are saying your books are life changing. And so, I mean, I think this is such an honor, Dr. Trimm, and thank you again for you promised, you came to us and you said, I'm going to do life with you all. And you have literally been there, like I said before, during the darkest times. Y'all, she used to say, you're going to call me on every Tuesday. If you don't call me first, I'm gonna call you. And she said, don't lie to me. And if I got on the phone, I was like, I'm all right. She'll say, we're gonna try this again. So thank you so much for your
You're
consistency,
so welcome.
your authenticity. She's literally seen my children grow up. And I'm so blessed to have you as a spiritual mother in my life. And I believe Leviticus is blessed because they're connected to me and I'm connected to you. And Apostle and I just appreciate who you are to us in our life. And thank you all for joining today. Please, by all means, you can go to Dr. Trimm's webpage at Cindy Trimm. It's a lot on cindytrimmministries.com. Cindy Trimm International. She also has a foundation. She's just a philanthropist. I'm trying to get your bio out. Like, she's world renowned. Like, countries call on her to strategize on her behalf. So I so appreciate the value of this conversation. Dr. Trimm, people are saying that they had such a wonderful time, that it was eye-opening. They appreciate you allowing yourself to come. They truly enjoy it. So thank you so much. And Leviticus is going to be
Thank you.
continuing our book club for the month of May. So feel free to join. You can follow us on Facebook if you want to know when. I'm not going to spend that time, but please buy the book. Get the book, and whatever you're doing during this time of social distancing or physical distance, put some investment into the knowledge and information that you put into your own life. And so I think Dr. Trimm is a great resource to start from. All right, Dr. Trimm, I love you so much. You know, I
I
love
love you too. Thank you for having me.
my comment.
Happy post Mother's Day to
Yes,
everybody.
to you as well, to you as well. I know there's
I
some
think
great.
we should have a Mother's Week, not just a Mother's Day, but we need to have a Mother's Year. And
Yes,
that should be every year.
That's right.
Yeah.
Every single year. So y'all, thank you so much for streaming with us. You all have a blessed night, a blessed week, and remember the value of who you are. And it's time for you to say goodbye to your yesterday. God bless you. I love